Okay.
in volume 3.
Right. Okay.
Removing a mezuzah.
Oh, okay.
The Gemara in Bava Metzia states that when one moves out of a house, one should not remove the mezuzah if the next tenants of the house are Jewish. If they are not Jewish, then it's permitted to remove the mezuzah. It says in Masechta Bava Metzia Kuv Beis, Ton Rabbana, a maskir bayis lechaver, a person rents his house, al asoicha lasos ol mezuzah. The one who's renting out the house, he has the chiyuv to make sure there's a mezuzah there for his tenant. And kishu yotzei, lo yitlena biyod v'yotzei. That means, first of all, I'm sorry, the renter has to put up the mezuzah, and when he leaves, he may not just take it. He has to leave it there. But if he rented the house from a non-Jew and he's going to move out, he can take the mezuzah with him. A person rented it, sold it or rented it to another Jew, and he was supposed to leave the mezuzah, but he took it anyways. The Yatsa, the cover Ishto Shnevana. Nishtagadak, he ended up burying his wife and his 2 kids. So it's not a good idea. More says, Maisa list store? I thought you just told me you could take the mezuzah, because we just finished the story that when you rent it to a non-Jew, you can take it. On Rav Sheshes Aresha, of course, Rav Sheshes explains it's going on the first part of the Mishnah, which is talking about renting it to a Jewish person. Rashi explains it. When he was rented from a Jew, and when he was rented from a Jew, lo yitlena biyod v'yotzei, you may not take it. The Shulchan Aruch and the Ramah accept this rule. If you rent a house from another person, you, the renter, have to fix a mezuzah there. And even if you rented out, you thought that there'd be a mezuzah there, it's not considered a mekach toes. You have to be koveh the mezuzah. The Baal Bayis is not responsible. When he leaves that dwelling place, he shouldn't take the mezuzah with him. Now, hikpid al mayois, if it's very expensive, he can demand payment from the other person.
Hey, Gerard, that peach looks.
Did you make a
problem?
problem?
Oh, we're good. Oh, it still looks crispy.
If he rented it from a Gentile, or rented it out to a Gentile.
Ernie, can you ask everybody to mute? It's just at the top of this.
There's a request everyone should mute, and if you want to talk, then open it up. But otherwise, mute it so that it'll be more quiet. Shikoyach everybody. The Ramah comments. What if the non-Jew wants the mezuzah to stay there? Prohibited to give it to the non-Jew. The near Eli, says the Ramah, he appears to me to be kol makom b'makom de'ikal mechosh b'shum eva. But if there's going to be a concern that there's going to be a pogrom, he's going to hate you, he may harm the Jew. Mishum zel Yisrael, sure, so you can give the non-Jew the mezuzah if he's makpid that he wants the mezuzah to stay on the house that he's going to rent. And the Sharei Torah Sabayis gives us some other details. If you rent an apartment or a house, so you rented it, have to have the responsibility to put in mezuzah. It means mezuzah if there's no mezuzah there. Ki mezuzah hi choyves hadar. The mezuzah, the requirement of the mezuzah is the obligations on the person who lives there. When he leaves dwelling there,
Gerard.
Yes.
There's a mute button on the top.
All I see is REC on top.
Put on the mute
I
button.
have
Do me a
leave.
favor.
Oh, I see what you're saying. No. No,
It said, put on your mute button.
I don't have the mute button
Top of your screen,
I
it
can
says the
mute.
mute button.
I can.
on my.
mute.
Oh, I mean a
Thank
regular
you.
Apple screen.
There you go. So, Osir, okay. So then he says, Osir l'lakach da mezuzah v'chayv l'sharet oso b'mkom. He has to leave the mezuzah there. Achein ha-mezuzah nishar m'rechush shel ha-soich ha'rishon. So the mezuzah, if the mezuzah remains the property of the guy who rented it, and the next person has to pay him. I mean, you could give it to him as a matana, but you can demand payment if it's expensive. Now, on the other hand, if he doesn't pay you, you can't take it down. Now, let's say the guy was moving into the apartment. He brings his own mezuzahs. He likes his own mezuzahs. He can take those other ones down. And you can give it back to the guy who rented it to you initially. All of this should happen after he moves in. But when, let's say, he hasn't rented it out to anybody, he cannot be machlif at that time. Let's say the guy coming in, because the dira is potter from him, so nobody's dwelling there. And therefore, the mezuzahs that have been put up there while somebody was living there, you're prohibited to take them down. So he's giving us a halacha that you should only switch the mezuzahs after you actually move in, because then there's the choivas hadar, and then you're allowed to take the prior mezuzahs down. But don't take them down until you actually move in. 2, if you rented the apartment from a non-Jew, now that you're moving out, the Jew's moving out, it returns to the ownership of the non-Jew. Let's say you own the apartment and you're renting it to a non-Jew. If there are mezuzahs there because the prior tenant was a Jew, you are obligated to take them down. It is prohibited to allow the mezuzah to stay there, and a non-Jew is going to move in there. He's not going to be worried about defiling it, like we learned. You should not change diapers in that room, and you shouldn't do things that are bizayon. And the non-Jew is not going to know how to be shomer properly. So it's a chiyuv to take it down. But if the person who moves in is a Jew, she'ena shomer Torah mitzvos, let's say he's not religious, and he may also damage the mezuzahs. So he gives an opinion that if you rent it out to a non-religious Jew, you should take it down. However, if he's a kind of person who you know if you take it down, he's not going to be matriach, work hard to find the mezuzah and to put it up there, and yesham when they're there, and you can convince him that he should protect these mezuzahs, as also then you should not take them down. And even he's not prepared to pay you for it. Third case, a moicher is basically Yehudi Achim. You sell it to another Jew. Also, you certainly cannot take the mezuzahs down. Even if you wrote in your contract, I'm going to keep my own mezuzahs, that's a t'nai that you can't write, because it's a t'nai that goes against halacha. It's an isser to take the mezuzah down. So the contract that you have with the person who's buying your house is only a contract regarding the monetary issues, but you can't permit isurim. It's a prohibition to take the mezuzah down. You can't, just because it's in a contract, you can't claim to keep the mezuzahs. Ad shakoni ikanes lagur b'dir. What the eitzah is, let the new person move in. And then yachlif lo mezuzahs. Then we said you're allowed to take the original mezuzahs down. He can give you your mezuzahs. He'll put his mezuzahs up. Now, in lo si kevim uforshim hakon shrot slashes mezuzahs latzmo, if he didn't write in the documents of sale that he wants to keep the mezuzahs, so yesh machlokas haposkim lemisha yachus hamezuzahs. Who me'ikar adin does these mezuzahs belong to? The yesh lishol shelas chacham alasos ask the Talmud Chacham because there's a dispute if it was not clearly stated that he wants to keep the mezuzahs. If it's clearly stated, so you can, there's a way to get him because let the guy move in, then you can be mach with it and get your mezuzahs back. But if you didn't put it in the contract, then it's a shy. Then let's say this, you who's selling the house had put a very expensive mezuzah there. So there is a permission to switch it to a less expensive case. If you need to put it up in another house. You should do it while you're still dwelling there. And not when it's empty. Because we said it's prohibited to do that. You shouldn't put just a stam mezuzah there. When you originally put up the mezuzah, you have to make a t'nai, a condition, that I can later on, if I decide to change it, less quality than this one. If you originally made a t'nai, then you can do it. If not, you may not be able to do it. Or not. Somebody who's careful about his mitzvahs. Yizar b'chshash sakana, v'lo yachlif v'zah mezuzos b'shum panim. Keep the mezuzahs the way they are. The option is ololo kesef, even though it's going to be expensive. Mishum shekiyum hamitzvah b'digdu, shava hotzar kaspi zu. He says, spending the money, it's worth it. The Yalkut Yosef, though, suggests a practical way of retaining ownership of a more expensive or higher quality mezuzah. So it says, Amatik di Rosso, Vinotila mezuzah shalosh emu dor me'od. Person's moving, he wants to take his expensive mezuzahs with him. Benoisim bim kolman mezuzah sachem ksherim. He's going to put up kosher mezuzahs. They're just going to be less expensive. He says, Medina yesh lahakel b'zeh. You can be mekel, even me'ikra din. Umikol makom derech eitzah tova sheyitol mezuzahs amudoros lematoros pedika. What you should do is you should take the mezuzah down on pretext that you're going to take it to a soifer and check them. That's a good option to switch the mezuzahs. Then when you put up the new mezuzah, albeit it's of less value, you can make a brach. You should do it a few days before you move out. Now we're going to go on page 274. Due to the importance of the mitzvah of placing mezuzah upon every room, the Ramah records a custom of placing one's hand on the mezuzah and reciting a slightly altered version of the famous pasuk. Says the Ramah in your Deya, Yesh Oiming, Kishadam Yotzei min habayis, Yaniach Yado al mezuzah v'yomer, Hashem yishmor tzeisi uvoecha me'atav yadol. Right? You should say, Hashem should watch my going out. When you come in, you should also place your hand on the mezuzah. The Kitzur Shulchan Aruch Rav Gansfried mentions explicitly the custom of kissing it, in addition to the custom of placing one's hands upon it. He says, "Kishiyotze mipesach beso, v'kein kishenichnas yinashek oso." So the Kitzur is the one who brings down the din of kissing it. The Klosenberger Rebbe in the Divrei Yotziv says the following: the performance of this mitzvah is not the fact that you dwell in this house with the mezuzah.
Honey,
yes.
honey,
Yes.
Can you increase your voice a little bit?
Me?
Yeah, you.
Okay. So the kiyum of the mitzvah,
Okay, it's fine now.
the kiyum of the mitzvah is not the fact that you're living in a house without a mezuzah. The pasuk to ancient chiyuv lo de rabbi sheyesh bo mezuzah. There's no special chiyuv to dwell in a house without a mezuzah. For example, main lo dira poterhu. If he doesn't have a dwelling, he's potter from the mitzvah. El hakavana keshadar b'bayis shechai b'mezuzah. So the meaning behind the mitzvah is when you're dwelling in a house that has a chiyuv mezuzah, hachiyuv alav b'chol eich yirot l'ashgiach sheyesh sham mezuzah. You have to worry all the time that there's a mezuzah there. V'she'im tipol, you always should be ready that if it falls, he's kanenanav yichadom, you should fix it. Ve'efshar shalacheda minag l'mashmei shel nashek mezuzah b'knisas v'tziyaso. With this, he tries to explain the minhag why we're always touching it and kissing it. Umakor b'ramah shebekach mekayim hamitzvah tomi. However, Rabbi Kiva Eger writes that if the mezuzah is not inside some sort of cover, you shouldn't touch it. For example, sefer Torah orum, nigbar orum. For example, if somebody carries a sefer Torah that's not covered with a mantle, he's going to be punished that he will be buried also without clothing. The lav dafka sefer Torah. He wants to say a mezuzah should not also be naked. It should be covered in a covering. In came the meila, a nochem lika mezuzah be a daim marumi. Says Rabbi Kiva Eger, you shouldn't touch the mezuzah with naked hands. It made a mechusa. Ulafamim hayadayim tunafois. Sometimes the hands are dirty. So don't touch a mezuzah that just got a cloth there. You got to make sure to touch it when it's covered. In fact, the Chazon Ish did not kiss the mezuzah.
What do you mean by
He
that?
simply gazed at it.
Honey, what do you mean by that?
He looked at it.
If you
The
put your
Chazon
cloth,
Ish did
if you
not
could-
touch the mezuzah.
you don't touch the mezuzah with your
You
hand.
You got to put the mezuzah. If the mezuzah is not in a kli, you shouldn't touch it, according to Rabbi Kiva Eger. A kli means it's in a box. Means that if you just have the cloth attached to the doorpost, he's questioning whether you should touch it or not.
In
fact, the
fact,
Chazon Ish,
is not enough.
yes, it's considered a covering. The Chazon Ish
Okay.
said that he didn't kiss the mezuzah, he looked at it. HaChazon Ish Amar, he was too weak to lift his head. He would look at it. V'osifa Rav Chaim Kanievsky, she'inyan anochas hayad al mezuzah, hu kedei lizkor ma shekosu ba. V'im beriya yesh inyan zeh. You have to, the whole point of the mezuzah is for you to know what was written inside of it. And by looking at it, that accomplishes the same thing. So in addition to the more well-known custom of kissing the mezuzah, it's also important to note that the halacha forbids people from performing certain types of activities close to the mezuzah, like it says in Shulchan Aruch. Mokum sheyesh tinuf. If there's a dirty place, there's dirty diapers. Tov l'chasas mezuzah. You should cover the mezuzah, even if the mezuzah is covered or has a case and is not see-through. One should still not engage in such activities such as changing diapers in front of it on a regular basis. So you should cover it. So in that case, if it was in a plastic covering, it's not enough of a cover. Says the Piskei Tshuva, "Aval chalila lasos b'kfir shum dover bizoy neged mezuzah." You shouldn't do something, an act of degradation for the mezuzah, and rely on the fact that it's covered. So he's saying that even if there's a regular cover on it, you should cover it. To do washing, you're washing diapers there. That's the room where they would dump the dirty water. So you have to be careful not to do the divrei bizoyon there as well. And then there's a story about Rav Amnon Shapira, who would always kiss the mezuzah, and it's a nice story there. So we finished, Baruch Hashem, Hilchos Mezuzah.
Ernie,
Yes.
are you allowed to kiss a mezuzah today with what's going on?
Definitely not.
Remember, today the viruses could last on any object for 3 to 4 days. So for health reasons, I would advise not. We should do what the Chazon Ish did, which is just look at it. The Chazon Ish, when he would walk in and out, he would look at the mezuzah for a little bit and think about it. So I think in our times, unless you wipe it down, right, with a antiseptic cloth.
Ernie,
Yes.
what about the box of the mezuzah? Let's say I have a silver box and I'm moving out. Am I allowed to take the box and leaving the mezuzah?
So we went through that in detail tonight. So the din is you have to leave. If it's a non-Jew, if you're renting it to a non-Jew, you're mechuyev to take it. Mechuyev.
Right.
Now, if you're renting it to a Jew, you may not take it. Now
You may. I thought you are obligated to leave it.
you must leave it. You may not take it.
No.
I said if you rent it to a non-Jew. Now you can make a heskem with him that once he moves in, you can be machlif it. You can then take it, and then he can put his own mezuzah there. Yeah, and as long as he agrees, that he can do that.
Ernie,
But
no,
then
I'm talking not about the mezuzah. The nartik, the box that you put the mezuzah. Also, you're not allowed if it's silver.
not. You can be machlif it once he moves. He said absolutely when it's empty, when the dirah is empty, you may not take it down. If you know for sure it's a Jew is moving in there. Then when the Jew moves in there, once he's got a chover sadar, then you can take it down. He can put a new mezuzah, make a bracha, and that's how you could be machlif it. But there was a shita David who said he's makpid after the odolo kesef mishum shekiva mitzvah b'dikuk shavo itzos kasmizu. He said, "I'm not mishum medagdei b'mitzvahs yizar b'chashash sakana v'lo yachlif as a mezuzah b'shum ponim." Even it's going to cost him a lot of money not to switch it. Those are a messiah. But the Yalkut Yosef gave a practical way of doing it by taking it down to check it.
Fine. And then to put
You have to do it before you move out. So then you can, that's an eitzah that he gave you to do it if it's a very expensive business. It's a good question. Okay. So Baruch Hashem, we had 2 simonim of Hilchos Mezuzah, very complicated dinim, but we got through it. So now we're going to go to page 293, a subject that a lot of people have not learned, Be'iyun, which is Hilchos Shatnez. And we're going to go through it. I'm not sure we'll finish tonight. This probably is going to be at least 2 weeks, but let's at least start. 293. The Torah presents a number of different categories of kloim, forbidden mixtures, which includes plowing with a mixture of different animals, planting specific types of seeds together, and weaving clothing out of specific materials. It says in Vayikra Schukasai Tishmaru, means don't mix animals. Sadchalot, don't make different species, like a horse and a donkey making a mule. You're not allowed to do that. Sadchalot tizra kilai, don't plant wheat and grapes together. Ubege kilayim shatnes lo yale aleh. And clothing that is made of wool, we're going to see it's wool and linen, you should not wear them. Says Dvarim, lo tilbash shatnes. So there the Torah tells us exactly, don't mix wool and linen together. So this prohibition of climb is usually understood as a chok. The Torah rules that do not have an obvious reason, like para aduma, even kashrus. These are chukim. We've been giving these laws. Dafka fins and scales, yes, and not fins and scales, no. Why is that? Or it's got to chew its cud and have a split hoof. We don't really know the reasons why those are the simoni kashrus. We don't know why paraduma works. So they thought that shatnez is also in the same category as a chok. Yet, nevertheless, Chazal do discuss this. They suggest a possible region in Medrash Tanchuma, in Parshas Bereishis. It says, "Vayavo Kayin mipri adama." Vayave Kayin mipri adama. So Kayin and Hevel each brought korbanos. Kayin was a farmer, so he brought things from the ground. Hevel was a shepherd, and he brought animals. So what did Kayin bring, says the Medrash? Mau. Min moiser macholo. He brought leftover food. Rabbanan zera pishtanaya. He said it was the seed of linen, flax. They have a levi gamhu mibcharos tzono umichal behen. He brought sheep. Lefichach nesar tzemer ufishtik. Because of this combination, Hevel bringing tzon, which makes wool, and Kayin, who brought flax. That's why tzemer ufishtik shenever lotil bashatnei. V'omer Kodesh Baruch Hu eino din sheyisarev minchas achote in minchas zakoi. It's not appropriate that material that was brought by the sinner, Kayin, which was the seeds of flax, should be mixed with the mincha that was brought by Hevel, who was blameless. Lefichach nesa. So very interesting shot in why shatnez was prohibited. The Sefer HaKinnah suggests whoever hasn't muted their whoever
Eli,
Yeah. Yes.
do me a favor. Mute your screen, please. On the top of your screen, press the top of the screen. There's the mute button. Mute it. Thank you. Really.
Shkoya.
It's okay now?
Also, Gerard, please.
How do you do this stupid thing? Are you talking the
What?
screen of the
Just
Zoom
press
or
the
the
screen.
screen?
Just touch the screen of your iPad or your iPhone.
Yes.
It'll come up, and just press the mute
Oh,
button.
it's in the bottom. It's in the bottom. That's why.
It's in the
Wait a
bottom.
second.
I don't know what bottom it's in by you, but it's on
It's
the top.
on the
right?
top. On the top.
On the top.
No.
Anyway, let's see if it
Maybe
works.
it's on your bottom, but it's on our
Okay,
top.
let's start again. So the Sefer HaChinuch says, "V'od yesh bo san stadei hataruvis v'tachbulos asuris." Another reason why these things the mixtures are forbidden. Lasos inyan acher shenesru bavuro. He says, "Lefi shekoach oso taruvis oila kol kach." There's some kind of power. Shemavatel mupuloso lefi shoch koach hamazal hamamun al shnei aminim. Like we know, like the Esav, the sorrow shel Esav, and other constellations in the sky are connected to certain physical things on earth. So he says that the mazel that is appointed for wool and for flax, somehow if you mix those two things, there's a certain koach. And by not mixing them, it get rid of their bad koach. He says, like we said, if you breed a horse and a donkey, you get a third species, a mule. By the way, the mule is sterile. So what he's saying is sometimes the third thing that you create is there's a negative to it. So somehow it creates a problem for our ruach. Av kinasa b'yadenu. Davar shemar ban ratzon lachlif davar b'maseh akel shnamus. That means Hashem created a horse and a donkey. But we say, oh, it's not good enough. We need to do better. So let's make a third thing. So we shouldn't try to perfect what Hashem is doing. And perhaps that's the problem. Says the Chinuch, that may be also a reason. And he continues, the Sefer Chinuch continues, Rambam zal kosa v'tama iser, lefi shahaya shayikumre avodah zarah loifshin bizman ahu keinu. somehow the priests of Avodah Zarah would wear mixtures of wool and flax. And says the Rambam Kosovod Ki Hayom Hu Mufursamah Davar Eitzel Kumrim Sheyesh B'Mitzrayim. Remember, the Rambam lived in Mitzrayim. He was the doctor for the Sultan. And I guess even in his time, the priests in Egypt would wear this kind of clothing. So we've been given a number of reasons behind Shatnez. It should be noted by way of introduction that the Isra of Shatnez applies both in Eretz Yisrael as well as in the Golus, and applies to both men and women. Says the Yalkut Yosef Isra Kohen Noi B'chol Makom Ba'aretz U'B'chutz La'aretz B'zman Shebeis Aminu Shayim Uzman Hazeh B'din Anoshim Shavel Anoshim B'Isra L'Visha Shatnez. Just like women are obligated in all negative commandments. The only time women out. The reason why they have, for example, a mitzvah of Kiddush on Shabbos, women, because Zocher v'Shomor. Since they are chayiv in all the negative prohibitions, they're chayiv in the Shomor as well, which is the Kiddush. Otherwise, they wouldn't be responsible for that. So you see that since Shatnez is a negative prohibition, of course, women are mechuyev in this as well. Now, the Tzurba says that the Hilchos of Shatnez and the practical nafkaminas are not well known, even among many religious Jews. And we will try over the course of this year to provide some of the basic principles of halacha, as well as some important practical applications as they relate to modern styles of clothing. So let's define the term shatnez and the basic halachic parameters on a deraisa dika level. The Mishnah Klein states that the chiyuv applies only to garments that are shua, tavui, v'nuz. Says the Mishnah Ein Asher Mishum Klein Ela Tavui v'Aru. It's got to be, this thread has to be spun, and then you have to weave it. Now, we don't know what that means yet. Rav Shimon Elazar Omer, Niluz, Umelis, who is Aviv Shabashamayim Allah. It means Niluz is like perverted, and it causes Hashem to turn away from man. Now, what is this Shua Tavui Venus? So the Rishonim dispute how to explain that. According to Rashi, who's most lenient, the biblical prohibition of shatnez applies only when the linen and wool are combined together through shua, which is a technique called carding. When I'm reading the footnote, when wool is shorn from a sheep, it's usually dirty and knotted and difficult to use. Therefore, a procedure called it's carded, meaning that the unorganized clumps of fiber are broken up and aligned so that they are all parallel with each other. So that's carding. And that's what he says shua is. And then spun together, tavui. This refers to the spinning of the fibers after they have been carded. This was done with a drop spindle, which helped to pull the wool into a twisted string. Today, this is done by machines. And it's got to be woven together with the cloth, nuz, within the cloth.
This is the way they do carpet or rugs that are done hand woven in the Far East, such as China and India.
So did you see a process like that in India or
Yes.
something?
Yes, they demonstrated it in India.
Okay. So according to
Straightening them
Rashi,
out and then weaving them together.
so if according to Rashi, that's why they said Rashi is the most lenient. If any of these three conditions are lacking, let's say there was no carding or no weaving, or if any of these stages are performed with the linen or wool alone, means Rashi says the wool and linen have to be done together, all three of these processes. Even if they were later mixed together, one does not violate biblical shatnez, only a rabbinic prohibition. Let's see Rashi in Masechta Nida, Shua, Lashon Chalak, which means to smooth it out, Targum Shel Chalak, Sha'iyah, like in Aramaic, Chalak is Sha'iyah, Klomer Shiyu Chalukin Yachad B'Masrei, that you with a comb you can smooth it together. Yachad, they have to be spun together. I always see spinning like you see those pictures with Gandhi he would always be spinning, right? He had a spinning, he would sit and spin, so that they would make thread that way. And then nuz is orug. Orug is weaving, where they weave together with a loom, what do you call it, the whoop and the warp, right? So they can't be woven. So it says Rashi, Rabbanu de gozer bo'orug below shua v'tuvu. So it's not permitted, but it's not a biblical violation if you wove it without shua v'tuvu together. So Rabbeinu Tam, though, is more machmir. Disagrees with Rashi. When Rabbeinu Tam, the term nuz refers to the winding of the threads around each other rather than being woven. Taking some of the finely spun little threads and twisting them together into a much thicker thread. That's what Rabbeinu Tam says is v'nuz, not weaving. Thus, if each of these stages occurs separately for the linen and wool, and they are then mixed together only at the end through weaving, tying, sewing, or the like, one still violates the biblical prohibition of shadnis. So I want to explain again. Rabbeinu Tam is more machmir than Rashi. He says even if you did the other things independently, like you comb